So, just to be clear here, when I say situationship, I'm also going to be including fresh, newly formed relationships, just because I think that when they both end, they kind of have a more similar outcome rather than a relationship that has been going on for a decent amount of time. We'll just say that. So, I'm pretty sure that most of us by now know what a situationship is. We've probably been in one. I know I have, but a lot of older people don't actually even know what situationships are. And for that, I'm jealous of them. And it is because their dating culture was so different back then, but that's not really the focus of this video. I want to kind of talk about why I think that situationships ending feels a lot suckier than when you just kind of get into like a regular breakup with your longtime partner. So, in the past, I doubt this is an invention, an original one, the 5 stages of dating. And my second stage of dating was the infatuation stage, also known as limerence. If you've ever heard of limerence, basically what it means is when something is new, you kind of over romanticize it. You think you're in love with it, but really you're just infatuated by it, and you have no idea if those feelings are reciprocated. So it's a really toxic and unhealthy feeling to feel. And let me tell you, I know a thing or two about limerence because I used to be the queen of limerence. I said the queen, used to be, because I'm not the queen anymore. I've been dethroned. I'm not like that anymore. But I did learn a lot when I started to kind of learn more about what limerence was and just how much it really screwed with my mind and what it really did to me and why it made me see my situationship in the way that I did rather than just for who he was. In my video, I also mentioned that I thought that the infatuation stage of dating was kind of the most dangerous stage, and I do still stand by that. I think limerence is really dangerous, and let's just jump into why I think so. So when I had my situationship going on, this guy was really perfect on paper, right? And not to say that he's not a good guy or anything, he just was not ready and he was just not going to be a good fit for me. And that's fine, and I probably was not a good fit for him either.
I'm sure I wasn't.
But instead of seeing those things and instead of listening to the things that he was saying to me that would really indicate that we were not going to be a good match, I didn't care. I so badly wanted this to work because I was like,
he's perfect.
I'm never gonna find somebody like this. Like, I'm really attracted to this person. He's everything that I really want in a partner. And this is the first time that I started talking to somebody that I actually feel like is somebody that I can have a future with. So I romanticized the hell out of him. Never mind the fact that we did not have a lot in common. And even the things that we did have in common, it was really shallow things. We had really good conversations, but the problem is the core stuff in his character that I needed for a partner, he didn't have. And I'm sure the same vice versa. I was probably too sensitive for him. At least that's what he told me. The disturbing part about being infatuated or in limerence with somebody is you are in fantasy world. You are in a relationship with them in your mind, but that relationship does not exist in reality. So you have this person, right? You're attracted to them, you like things about them, and then you mistaken it for love. And the reason why you mistaken it for love is because in your mind, you have painted a picture of every single date. You've met each other's parents, you've gotten married, you have kids, everything. Everything happened in your fantasy, but it didn't actually happen in real life. And I know that sounds really ridiculous if you're a person who has never experienced that and who doesn't get fanatically obsessed with things and then start fantasizing and inventing things about it, but it really does happen, and it feels so real. It really does feel like all those things happen, and it feels like all those feelings are real, and you project all your things that you really want in an ideal partner onto that person. Even if that is not in their personality whatsoever, you're gonna see it one way or another. And it doesn't take a lot of work. It's actually so easy to see in them what you want to see in them. They could be saying like, I am nothing like your dream person, and you're like,
Okay, I know he is. He's perfect.
in the limerence stage, it's also kind of that stage where you're so willing to just over compromise. It's kind of that time of your life where you're like, you just want them to be with you. And again, you don't see their flaws because you don't have them. You know, have you ever heard that? You know, a person's perfect until you actually start dating them and then you see all their flaws. Very much true. That person is exactly your ideal type. So you're going to do whatever it takes to get them. You've really, really built them up, and you cannot fantasize, or your fantasies are not going to allow for that person to step out of line and hurt you. And then what's also sad too is this is kind of the fun stage of dating, because the real life important questions about compatibility haven't really come into play yet. This is still like, it's chill, it's fun, we're just talking, like we just like each other. But why is it that now we have to ask where we stand, and then everything just goes to crap? And it's because a lot of people don't want to commit anymore, and commitment is seen as such a bad thing. So you stay in a situationship for a lot longer because a lot of people are afraid to ruin that good thing of what they have going on by trying to make the relationship take that extra step to become more serious. It's such a big deal to ask somebody where you stand, and I feel like that's such a normal question, especially if your situationship has been going on for like over a month. People are also a lot more easily manipulated in that situation stage because you're not owed anything. They don't owe you commitment, or that word, what is it when you're only seeing that one, exclusivity. They don't owe you any exclusivity. So you're like in this position where you can't even get mad when they're still seeing other people, because you're not a couple. You did not establish that. And that is another thing that kind of prevents people from wanting to open up a conversation about becoming exclusive or about taking that relationship to the next level, because they're afraid of learning something potentially that they don't want to learn. This is kind of a Delulu stage. Kind of really a Delulu stage, where when you are in that relationship, that Delulu-ness doesn't really have much of a place anymore because the infatuation has worn off. You have hopefully fallen in love with this person, and now you can actually see their flaws, and you still love them, but you're just not this head over heels like in this fantasy world about that person. You can kind of see what's laid out, and you can determine, am I okay with these flaws or not? And then at some point you might even decide that you don't even actually think they're flaws. You know what I'm saying? They might just kind of work in your favor. And because when you are in a situationship and you're so vulnerable and so delusional, people also overhype it, because people kind of start putting ideas in your mind. It's so exciting because like speculations are just running wild. People are asking, like, it's, it's new, it's fresh, it's exciting. But when it's like a relationship, it's kind of more stable. People for some reason love being in situations where it's not stable. I also made a video about this where a lot of people enjoy the thrill of not knowing when something is going to disappear at any moment. And that is why I feel like this is such a dangerous thing that's kind of happening. And people who have grown up in a more normal dating culture just don't get it. This is exciting. This is thrilling. And I personally can't understand why. I mean, I got more heartbroken when my situationship ended, even more than when my 2.5-year relationship ended. And it's because with my 2.5-year relationship, I was ready for that chapter to be closed. There was so many things that I could not ignore, because when you're in a relationship, you don't have fantasies to reflect on. You have memories. And memories can be very beautiful. You have the good ones, but you also have the bad ones. So you're forced to, when you remember something positive, immediately right after it follows up with,
well, here was the problem with that.
And then you kind of be like, yeah, well, that was a fun time, but here's ultimately why it just wasn't gonna work. Where with a fantasy, you don't have that. There was no bad memories. It was only beautiful things. Also, a lot of times relationships ending kind of ends in a lot more anger because you're pretty pissed off at each other, where in a situationship, you have not gotten there yet. You're still on this high and you're just getting shot down. And it's also really painful when you have to come to terms and realize you did this to yourself and the other party had nothing to do with it. They didn't know that you were thinking of them in this way, or at least in the elevated way that they did not ask to be thought of. But people are aware that they're not committing to you and they're not offering security anymore. And I think what really scares me about situationships is the over romanticization and the over normalization of situationships, and just how more and more common they're becoming and how desired they're becoming. And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, what the hell do you mean by desired? But tell me why I'm seeing people posting things about how their situationship has been going on for 5 years and they're happy with it, and then other people responding to that wish with that they wish that this would happen to them and they want like that exact thing going on. Blows my mind. This is why I don't see an end in sight for this, and this is why I think that the dating culture is just so beyond screwed, because people are addicted to toxicity. And I think that we cannot be better if we're not willing to just rip the band-aid off and acknowledge that we've got some serious problems. And I think that this kind of goes into attachment styles, which I kind of want to make a more in-depth video about attachment styles. When things are starting to crash down, you kind of start doing irrational things like scrambling for closure and trying to figure out why this isn't working, when again, they don't owe you anything. I'm not saying that they don't owe you an explanation, but they don't owe you to sit there and fight so hard to make something work. And that's what makes it feel so crazy. And people around you don't realize how serious and deep and heavy situations can get just without a label. And so you're left looking kind of crazy to people around you, because a lot of people around you were able to see this the way that it was. People were able to see the qualities in this person, or to listen to what you were saying and be able to just be like, yeah, that is not a good situation for you. But because you're the one who's smack in there, you can't see those things. So then you just look crazy. I remember when I was getting over my situationship, I swear to you, I stayed heartbroken over that way longer than I did over my 2.5-year relationship. And I felt cuckoo. Like, I felt like a broken record, and I felt like people really just did not understand like what I was experiencing, even though a lot of people did, because a lot of people also experienced it themselves. But the people who didn't thought I was crazy. And they were like, I just don't understand why you're so hurt about this. This is not somebody that you're actually dating. And I couldn't understand that either. I'm like, why am I more upset about this? And it's because I had all these dreams and these hopes. And ultimately, it felt like a divorce. Not to be dramatic, but it's like in my mind, like a marriage just ended. So if you're in a situationship and you found this video, it's not a coincidence, it's a sign. End that situationship right now. No excuses. Stop being the person that gets left, and time to actually do the leaving. The bottom line is, our daydreams can be really, really detrimental, and we need to be careful. That means surrounding yourself with people who will actually tell you if you're going too far with your daydreams and your fantasies and expectations from a person. We have to remember at the end of the day that these people are people. They're not perfect. They're not going to be like our fictional crushes. That is a direct attack on myself. I don't like to say to like set the bar lower, but we kind of have to set the bar a little bit lower. I mean, I had such high expectations out of people, so when they would do things like this, or like when I had that instance with that person, I didn't even ask if we were exclusive. I just assumed we were. And that, I never even really got closure on that, and closure doesn't exist, so just don't even bother trying to get closure, especially in something that is not real. But it felt real because it was going on for like 6 months. And again, see, this is the problem with not asking people where you stand. Situationships are a huge waste of time compared to a relationship, because you have no idea what the hell you just gained from that. All you know is you went on an emotional roller coaster. You thought you fell in love with them. You came down. You went through a whole life with them, and then what did it even do for you? Nothing. It left you with nothing, and it left you wondering what could have been or what should have been. Where at least with a relationship, you got to see what those outcomes could have looked like, would have looked like. It's just hurtful to think that we're so willing to just give our heart and our time and attention to people who did not actually earn it yet, because with situationships you don't have to earn it. You made them earn it just automatically with not much work put in by them. When it all kind of does end though, just remember to be patient. It can take a long time to get over it. It's okay, that's normal, but just don't let it consume you and actually try to learn from it. There's no such thing as a waste of time if you can register what went wrong, what you think you could have done better, and what you're not willing to allow the next time, so you can actually take a lesson out of it instead of just being like, oh, one heartbreak after the next. I don't know how people are not desensitized, but that's really ultimately what I would say is the only way that it would not be a waste of time, because otherwise it is a waste of time. It's a fat waste of your time. Eventually you might become jaded if you're not willing to do that self-reflection and that inner work and wonder why you just keep jumping into painful and non-committal relationships. At the end of the day, we kind of all just need to do better at respecting people as people and respecting their time, and know that, hey, if I'm not trying to be serious, let me at least communicate that. If I'm just here for the funsies, let them know so that they can make a choice if they want to walk away or not. I don't know why that communication is just non-existent nowadays. It's like people just keep lying to each other, and that's what results in people feeling like they did waste their time. So be careful, be open, be honest, and if you know somebody that's always in a position like this, shake them awake, because they might not be able to do it themselves, and that's a painful place to be. So that's all I have to say on that. Future me popping in really quick. I forgot to mention that I think another reason why people keep holding on to situationships and dragging them out is because there is this fear of letting go because of disappointment from other people. Nobody wants to admit that this new person that they spoke so highly of is just another dud. If you tell everybody that they're gone, then people are going to hold you to that standard, and then if they try to come back, and you can't really come back from that, and I think that there is a shame. And that's why I say, stop putting people on a pedestal, because you literally don't know. You keep holding on to this sliver of hope, hoping that they're going to come back and just make up for all the shit they did, but you just don't know that. You also might feel like there's something wrong with you, and you might compare yourself to people around you who might be in successful relationships, and don't do that, because it's not a you problem.